Okay, let's unpack this. We've got a stack of sources that are, well, absolutely buzzing with rumors, leaks, and speculation about the next main entry in the Resident Evil series.
The one everyone's calling Resident Evil 9, yeah.
And it's quite the stack, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're looking at everything from reports based on alleged leaks.
Notes from supposed playtests, too.
Right, and discussions happening in online forums, plus even some technical background on the engine Capcom uses.
Exactly. So our mission here in this deep dive is basically to take all of this.
Sift through it all.
Yes, synthesize the most important bits, the key details reported within these sources, and try to get a clearer picture of what the future could look like for RE9.
And we absolutely have to stress right up front.
Yeah.
This is all based on unconfirmed stuff, rumors and leaks.
Totally. As exciting as it all sounds, it's just potential glimpses.
No.
Nothing's locked in until Capcom makes it official.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
But wow, if even some of this turns out to be true.
Oh, yeah. We could be in for something pretty significant.
So let's start with the characters, because the leaks, they seem to drop some major fan favorites right into the mix.
They really do. The reports strongly suggest, well, that the playable leads for RE9 are going to be Jill Valentine and Leon S. Kennedy.
Which, for so many fans, that's like the dream team up they've been waiting for in a main game for years.
Absolutely legendary. But, you know, the leaks add this kind of weird wrinkle.
Oh.
They claim Jill looks young, supposedly, while Leon appears much older.
Huh. Okay, that immediately makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, is that just art style or maybe a time jump thing?
Yeah.
Or something else plot-related?
It's definitely a detail that catches your eye.
Yeah.
And the same reports mention other classic characters helping out.
Via radio, right?
Yeah, Chris Redfield and Barry Burton. And Barry, you know, he hasn't really had a big role since Revelations 2.
So even a remote appearance would be pretty notable for him.
Definitely.
Okay, so potential heroes, maybe some backup on comms. Where's all this supposed to be happening, according to these sources?
The rumored setting is primarily an island.
An island. Okay. And the leaks and playtest notes seem to paint a picture of a pretty diverse place, right? Not just one thing.
Yeah, exactly. They mention an abandoned hospital, regular houses, a factory,
Waves, Dark Forest.
a laboratory, even a temple. It sounds less like a single uniform spot and more like, you know, distinct zones all on one big island.
Which suggests different kinds of environments, maybe different types of war. So why this island? What's the alleged hook?
The potential core plot, based on these sources, ties straight back to Resident Evil 7.
Oh.
Jill and Leon are apparently investigating the island because it's reportedly home to the company that created Eveline.
Eveline, the girl made of mold from RE7, the main antagonist there.
Yep, the central figure of that whole mold saga. So this ties RE9 directly into that storyline.
Makes sense.
And the reports claim this company is now making clones of Eveline using the Megamycete.
The Megamycete, that huge, like, fungal superorganism from RE7 and Village that basically controls the mold.
That's the one. So the mold isn't gone. It's potentially being mass-produced, maybe refined in a new way.
And the leaks suggest RE9 is set, what, 4 years after Village?
Yeah, and it's supposedly meant to be the finale, wrapping up that whole trilogy, RE7 Village, and now RE9.
The conclusion to the mold saga, potentially.
Seems like it. And there's another Village connection to Rosemary Winters, Ethan's daughter.
Right, she might return or at least be mentioned.
Yeah, and there's a specific detail claiming her blood will be used to craft a vaccine for infected people on the island.
Which, given her unique biology shown at the end of Village, that actually tracks.
It does. And here's a detail from the leaks that sounds pretty intense.
Lay it on me.
It's alleged that both Jill and Leon get infected by the Megamycete themselves.
Whoa, okay, that changes everything, doesn't it? How do you even operate if you're fighting the thing that's also inside you?
Exactly. Does it affect gameplay? Maybe hallucinations like we saw with Ethan and RE7? Big questions there.
Huge stakes.
Mm-hmm.
And the sources also mention Blue Umbrella possibly being back.
Or at least a joint Blue Umbrella BSAA research base on the island.
BSAA, Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance. Chris Redfield's group.
Right. Their potential presence suggests this isn't just some small rogue operation. It sounds bigger, needing major resources, maybe multiple agencies involved.
And who's supposed to be the big bad behind this Eveline cloning scheme?
The rumored main antagonist is this guy named Mr. Simon, described as the brains behind the bioweapon production on the island.
Mr. Simon, got it. Okay, let's pivot a bit. From the story setup to the actual threats, what do these sources say about the enemies we might face?
The concepts described sound pretty unique, actually, taking the series in some interesting directions.
Like what?
Well, there's mention of an evolved type of zombie, more like the Ganados from RE4.
Meaning they're not just shamblers, they can use weapons.
Exactly. Melee weapons, which makes combat way more dynamic, right? You'd have to prioritize threats, worry about being rushed.
Definitely ups the ante. But the most striking thing about these alleged zombies...
Is their reported worship of the moon.
What?
Yeah. The leaks claim they have moon tattoos, and they actually sing to the moon.
Okay, that's unsettling. And very different.
Adds this weird cult-like vibe. One playtest note specifically mentioned seeing zombies praying to the moon by a bonfire on a beach. That's an image, huh?
It is genuinely creepy. Suggests maybe a new level of
Yeah.
awareness or delusion among the infected, beyond just raw aggression.
Totally. And what about the classic stalker enemy? The one that just won't leave you alone?
Like Mr. X or Nemesis.
They're reportedly back. Leaks mention a Mr. X-style enemy that specifically goes after Leon,
Okay.
and a totally separate one known as the Goat Man that stalks Jill.
The Go Man. Okay, tell me everything about that.
All right, so the alleged playtest details describe him as having horns, a huge mouth on his belly, and carrying a massive axe. And yeah, like Mr. X apparently can't be killed, just slowed down.
Temporarily incapacitated.
Right, and the playtest reportedly ends with the Goat Man overpowering Jill and infecting her.
So that an infection plot point for Jill might be directly tied to him. He's not just a threat, he's a potential vector for that major story beat.
Seems that way. Makes him way more significant.
What other enemies popped up in these reported playtests?
Beyond the moon zombies and the stalkers. There were zombies with axes reinforcing that melee threat.
Okay.
A witch-like woman who turns into flies, apparently can't be killed, and just kind of taunts Leon. Sounds maybe more psychological. Or a puzzle boss.
Interesting.
And hallucinated dog-like creatures, which hints that the megamycete infection could mess with the player's perception, make you question what's real.
That fits with the idea of Eveline hallucinations maybe appearing too. Yeah, blurring those lines. What about the overall gameplay feel? Rumors suggest a shift.
Yeah, it's rumored not to be a fully open world like, say, Elden Ring or something,
Okay.
but to incorporate open world elements, using tech maybe borrowed from games like Dragon's Dogma 2.
So what does that mean in practice? Bigger maps?
Seems like it. Larger, more interconnected maps, more freedom to explore within those zones. But trying to balance that, with the classic Resi tension and the scripted horror moments.
So maybe less like strict corridors, more like areas you can loop back through, find multiple paths, but still contained enough to keep things scary and paced.
That sounds about right. And the playtest details did mention classic inventory stuff.
Like,
Shotgun, pistol, crafting for ammo, machine gun, aid sprays. Suggests that core survival horror resource management is definitely still there.
good to hear. Now, this rumored scale and ambition, it sounds pretty big. Let's talk tech. It's all running on the RE engine, yeah.
That's right, Capcom's own engine. They built it around 2014, specifically for Resident Evil 7. It replaced their older MT framework engine.
And there's that interesting tidbit about the name,
Yeah, one source mentioned its name might have originally been Reach for the Moon engine.
suggesting high ambitions from the start.
Exactly, aiming for something cutting edge.
Why do big studios like Capcom bother with their own engines? Why not just use something like Unreal or Unity?
Well, the sources explain that while those third-party engines are powerful, Capcom felt they weren't quite efficient or tailored enough for the specific kinds of games they wanted to make.
Especially detailed horror games like RE7.
Right. The RE engine was built for their specific workflow, asset-based development, giving them really fine control over the visuals and gameplay features crucial for their titles.
And it's obviously worked out. It powers Resi, Devil May Cry, Monster Hunter, Street Fighter.
Pretty much all their big hitters now.
Yeah.
It's really good at detailed graphics, photogrammetry.
That's using real photos for models.
Yeah, makes things look super realistic. Plus, complex animation with motion matching for fluid movement, realistic physics, and importantly,
Handling large environments.
yes, they proved it could, even if it was tough, by porting Monster Hunter Rise to the Switch.
So if RE9 really does have these bigger, more open-ish maps, the RE engine is definitely capable, especially after years of refinement.
For sure. And the rumored scale of the RE9 project itself, that says a lot.
What are the leaks saying there?
They suggest it has the longest development cycle of any Resident Evil game, reportedly started way back in 2018,
Wow, that's a long time.
and the largest budget in the franchise's history.
Okay. So what is that kind of investment signal? What are they aiming for?
It heavily implies they're trying to make this a new benchmark for survival horror,
Hmm.
pushing boundaries, maybe in graphics, level design, AI, story, in a way previous games haven't.
Really leaning into that reach for the moon idea.
Exactly, it fits. And there's even a note that Capcom's already working on their next engine, codename REX.
So they're not standing still?
Nope, building on the RE engine, evolving it incrementally, shows a long-term commitment to their tech.
Okay, let's shift to the timeline. When might we actually see this thing, or even play it? Capcom confirmed it was in development. When? July 2024.
Yeah, but it's been pretty quiet since then. Just some vague teases after RE4 Remake sold well.
So what's the main rumor for a release window?
Based on reports citing info shared with investors, the target is Q1 2026.
First quarter 2026. So January, February, March.
Right. And there's even some chatter about the specific timing within that quarter.
Oh, yeah.
Some sources speculate it could land right at the end of March 2026.
Why then specifically?
Because that would line up perfectly with the series' 30th anniversary, which would be, pretty fitting for their supposedly most ambitious game yet.
That makes a lot of sense. And a reveal. When might we get a first trailer?
Reports are strongly suggesting the first public trailer will drop at Summer Game Fest on June 6th, 2025.
June 2025. Okay, so that's less than a year before that potential Q1 2026 release. How does that gap compare to recent big Capcom games?
Well, look at the Resident Evil 4 remake, announced June 2022, released March 2023.
About 9 months.
Exactly. A very similar time frame. Makes that June 2025 SGF reveal seem pretty plausible, timeline-wise.
Although, there's a point people bring up about where Capcom usually unveils these big RE Engine games, right?
Yeah. There is, yeah. A lot of folks have noticed that the main Dev 1 Resident Evil games, since RE7 anyway, have typically debuted at Sony PlayStation events, like State of Play.
Not multi-platform shows like Summer Game Fest.
Right. So the SGF rumor, while strong, raises a question. Is Capcom changing its reveal strategy? Or is this particular rumor maybe a bit off? Adds a layer of intrigue.
Definitely something to watch.
Okay.
Okay, let's pull back from the specific leaks for a sec. Our forum source mentions the broader fan conversation. What kinds of enemies do people hope to see in RE9?
It shows a really wide range of hopes, actually. You've got some fans really craving a return to classic zombies and the more traditional BOWs.
Feeling like they've been missing in recent main games.
Kind of, yeah. But then on the flip side, you have people wanting something completely new, totally unexpected.
Like what kind of ideas?
Oh, everything from like bacterial or prion-based monsters,
Yeah.
pushing into maybe more sci-fi stuff like aliens or biological gray goo.
Wow, okay. Acknowledging the series has dipped its toes in different genres over the years.
Exactly. It seems like people want that balance between, honoring the bioterror roots, but also pushing for real innovation in creature design.
Interesting.
There's also talk about wanting interesting hybrids or creatures really tied to a specific setting, like if it was in a rainforest or desert. And a debate about the fantasy monsters like in Village versus more grounded stuff.
Wanting designs that are scary but also make sense in the lore.
Pretty much. And some cool specific fan ideas came up, too.
Such as?
BSA, BOW soldiers, which, after the end of Village, makes a lot of sense. Regenerating enemies that force you to think tactically. Or just completely original designs not based on animals or folklore, just something truly new and weird for the series.
There's clearly a big appetite out there for unique, memorable monsters.
doubt.
So putting this all together, this deep dive, drawing from all these sources, it really paints a compelling potential picture for Resident Evil 9, assuming these rumors pan out.
Yeah, you've got the return of Leon and Jill potentially wrapping up that whole multi-game mold storyline.
A dynamic island setting with all those different zones.
And these genuinely unique enemy ideas, like the moon-worshipping zombies and that Goatman stalker. Sounds terrifying.
Plus that rumored gameplay style, mixing in more open elements, potentially offering a fresh feel while keeping the tension.
All powered by the RE engine and backed by supposedly the biggest budget ever for the series.
Again, we have to keep saying these are just rumors for now.
Mm-hmm.
But taken together, they offer this really tantalizing glimpse of what could be Capcom's most ambitious Resident Evil yet.
It really suggests a game trying to blend fan service, bringing back Leon and Jill with some significant steps forward in gameplay and story. It's that whole reach for the moon thing, doesn't it?
It really does. So for you listening, thinking about this mix, classic characters, continuing a recent plot line, these rumored new gameplay ideas, how do you think RE9 could best innovate while still feeling like true Resident Evil survival horror? What benchmark specifically would you hope it sets for the future of the series?